Friedrich Nietzsche, one of the most controversial, influential, and misunderstood philosophers of the modern era. Born in 1844 in a small town in Germany, Nietzsche would go on to challenge the very foundations of Western thought, daring us to rethink everything we know about morality, truth, and the human condition. A brilliant scholar from a young age, Nietzsche began his career as a philologist, studying ancient Greek and Roman texts. But his restless intellect soon drove him beyond the boundaries of conventional academia. By his mid-30s, he had become a radical thinker, penning works that would shake the foundations of religion, morality, and society. Nietzsche's writing is marked by a fierce, poetic style, often filled with aphorisms and bold declarations. He questioned everything from the authority of religion to the value of truth itself, often positioning himself against the very core of Western philosophical tradition. He famously declared, "God is dead," critiqued the herd mentality of society, and introduced radical ideas like the Übermensch, the Overman or Superman, and the will to power. But Nietzsche's ideas were not just abstract theories. They were a call to live more authentically, to create our own values, and to rise above the mediocrity of conventional morality. So who was Friedrich Nietzsche? Was he a madman, a prophet, a revolutionary thinker, or something more? Today, we dive deep into his philosophy, exploring his radical rethinking of good and evil, and the powerful concept of the Übermensch that continues to inspire, provoke, and challenge us over a century after his death. For centuries, our understanding of morality, of what is good and what is evil, has been shaped by religious doctrines, societal norms, and philosophical traditions. But Nietzsche saw something deeply troubling in this moral landscape, something that he believed was holding humanity back. Nietzsche's critique of traditional morality centers around two main concepts: slave morality and master morality. According to Nietzsche, Western morality, particularly Christian ethics, is fundamentally a slave morality, a set of values created by the weak to serve their own interests by condemning the natural instincts of the strong and powerful. In Nietzsche's view, slave morality is born out of resentment. It elevates virtues like humility, meekness, and self-sacrifice, which to Nietzsche are rooted in weakness. In contrast, he proposed master morality, which values strength, power, and the ability to create one's own values, qualities Nietzsche believed were essential for human flourishing. Nietzsche argues that traditional moral systems, particularly those influenced by Christianity, suppress our natural instincts and creativity. They label the natural will to power, the drive to achieve, to create, to assert oneself, as evil. In doing so, they promote a morality of mediocrity, conformism, and stagnation. For Nietzsche, the very idea of absolute good and evil is a human invention, a convenient lie to control and tame the human spirit. He challenged this dichotomy, suggesting instead that we should move beyond good and evil, freeing ourselves from the false binaries imposed by society and religion. Nietzsche calls for a revaluation of all values, a radical reevaluation of what we consider virtuous or valuable. He believed that we must reclaim our natural instincts, celebrate our individual will to power, and reject the moralities that weaken our true potential. Nietzsche's critique of traditional morality was not just a philosophical stance. It was a challenge to each of us, a challenge to examine the values we hold, the beliefs we follow, and to ask ourselves, are these values truly ours? Or are they imposed by a society afraid of its own potential? Beyond Good and Evil, one of Nietzsche's most provocative works. In this book, Nietzsche challenges us to rethink everything we know about morality, truth, and human potential. He calls for a new morality, one that breaks free from the chains of conventional ethics. But what does Nietzsche mean by beyond good and evil? For Nietzsche, it's not enough to simply reject the old moral codes. We must transcend them entirely. Traditional morality, he argues, is a construct, a set of arbitrary rules designed to keep the masses in check. Nietzsche sees this as a great hindrance to human flourishing, creativity, and individual strength. In Beyond Good and Evil, Nietzsche urges us to go beyond the simplistic, black and white thinking of moral absolutism. He believes that we must cultivate a new morality, one that is personal, dynamic, and rooted in our individual will to power. This new morality doesn't look to external authorities like religion or society. It looks inward, to the self, to the strength and creative power that lies within each of us. The will to power. For Nietzsche, this is the driving force behind all human action. It is the innate desire to assert, grow, and express ourselves fully. Nietzsche argues that our true potential is realized when we abandon the herd mentality, break free from traditional moral frameworks, and create our own values based on our unique strengths and desires. To go beyond good and evil is to embrace the unknown, to challenge ourselves to rise above mediocrity, and to continually strive for self-mastery. It is about becoming what Nietzsche calls the Übermensch, or overman, an individual who creates their own meaning and purpose in a world without absolutes. Nietzsche's call for a new morality is not a rejection of values altogether. It is an invitation to create new values, to find new ways of living that are authentic, courageous, and life-affirming. It is about daring to ask, what if the rules we've followed are just constructs? What if we have the power to rewrite them? Beyond Good and Evil challenges us to think deeply about what it means to live a good life, not by society's standards, but by our own. Nietzsche's vision invites us to step into the unknown, to embrace our inner strength and to redefine what is possible for ourselves and for humanity. The Übermensch, or Overman, is perhaps one of Friedrich Nietzsche's most misunderstood and controversial concepts. But what exactly did Nietzsche mean by the Übermensch, and why is it central to his philosophy? In Nietzsche's magnum opus, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, he introduces the Übermensch as an ideal, an aspirational figure who rises above the limitations of ordinary human existence. But the Übermensch is not a superhero or a tyrant. It is instead an individual who has transcended the conventional values of society, someone who has gone beyond good and evil to create their own meaning and purpose in life. Nietzsche describes humanity as a rope stretched over an abyss between the animal and the Übermensch. The Übermensch represents the next step in human evolution, not a biological leap, but a spiritual and psychological one. It is the embodiment of self-overcoming, the relentless pursuit of one's potential. But who or what is the Übermensch? Nietzsche does not give us a concrete example. Instead, he offers a vision of a person who rejects the Slav morality of traditional religions and social norms, who dares to create new values, who embraces life's uncertainties with courage and affirmation, and who lives with a profound sense of purpose. The Übermensch is a creator, an artist of life. This figure does not merely accept the world as it is, but actively shapes it according to their own will to power. This is not about dominating others, but about mastering oneself, turning one's life into a work of art. It is about finding joy in the struggle, in the process of becoming, rather than in reaching a final destination. For Nietzsche, to become the Übermensch is to embrace the idea of eternal recurrence, the radical acceptance that everything we experience in life, with all its pain and pleasure, might repeat infinitely. The Übermensch does not dread this thought. Instead, they say yes to life in all its fullness. They affirm every moment, every choice, every experience, seeing it as an opportunity to grow and evolve. Nietzsche's Übermensch is not a prescription, but a challenge, a call to each of us to transcend the ordinary, to break free from the constraints that hold us back, and to strive for greatness on our own terms. It is an invitation to ask ourselves, what could we become if we dared to live without fear, without conformity, and with full creative force? The Übermensch is not just an ideal for Nietzsche, it is a possibility for each of us. A possibility to live fully, authentically, and courageously, to turn our lives into something extraordinary. The question is, are you ready to take that step? Friedrich Nietzsche is one of the most influential philosophers of the modern era. His ideas have shaped countless fields, from philosophy and psychology to literature, art, and even politics. Yet perhaps more than any other philosopher, Nietzsche has been subject to profound misunderstandings and misinterpretations. So how did Nietzsche's radical thoughts become so widely misconstrued? And what is the real impact of his work? A significant misinterpretation of Nietzsche's work came in the early 20th century when his ideas were co-opted by Nazi ideology. Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch and his critique of Slav morality were twisted to fit a narrative of racial superiority and authoritarianism. However, Nietzsche was not a nationalist, a racist, or an advocate of any political doctrine. In fact, he condemned anti-Semitism and nationalism in his writings. Much of the confusion can be traced back to Nietzsche's own sister, Elizabeth Forster Nietzsche, who edited and distorted his unpublished works after his death to align with her nationalist and anti-Semitic views. This forged an unfortunate link between Nietzsche's philosophy and the rise of fascism, one that scholars have since worked hard to dismantle. Despite these misinterpretations, Nietzsche's genuine influence has been profound and diverse. Philosophers like Michel Foucault drew on Nietzsche's ideas to critique power structures and social norms. Carl Jung was inspired by Nietzsche's concept of the shadow self in his own theories of psychology. Even existentialists like Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus built upon Nietzsche's exploration of meaning, freedom, and individualism. Nietzsche's ideas also resonate deeply in popular culture. His notions of questioning authority, challenging conventions, and seeking personal authenticity have found their way into countless films, books, and songs. The call to live dangerously and to become who you are has inspired generations to think critically about their lives and their societies. In many ways, Nietzsche's real influence lies in his challenge to each of us to think for ourselves, to question inherited beliefs, and to strive for a more authentic existence. He does not provide easy answers, but instead poses difficult questions that push us to examine our values and the structures of power that shape our world. Nietzsche's legacy is not found in dogma, but in dialogue, in the ongoing conversation about what it means to live, to think, and to be free. His influence, despite, or perhaps because of its many misinterpretations, continues to challenge us to this day. What would Friedrich Nietzsche say if he could see the world today? How would his radical ideas about morality, individuality, and self-overcoming apply in our modern lives? Nietzsche's philosophy, although written in the 19th century, offers us a lens to examine the complexities of contemporary life. Let's explore three key areas where Nietzsche's ideas can be especially relevant today. In a world dominated by social media, peer pressure, and mass culture, Nietzsche's call to become who you are resonates powerfully. He challenges us to break free from herd mentality, those inherited norms, societal expectations, and popular opinions that often dictate how we should live our lives. Nietzsche urges us to ask ourselves, are we living according to our true values, or simply conforming to what others expect of us? To apply Nietzsche's ideas today means to embrace our unique potential, to take risks, and to live authentically, even if that means standing against the current. In a largely secular world, where traditional religious beliefs may not provide the same sense of purpose they once did, Nietzsche's philosophy offers a different path. He encourages us to create our own meaning in life, rather than rely on external doctrines or authorities. Nietzsche's idea of the will to power can be understood as the drive to assert one's values, to find purpose in creation, and to face life's challenges with resilience and courage. This is particularly relevant in an age where existential questions like, what is the purpose of my life? Or how can I make a difference? Are more pressing than ever. Nietzsche warned of the dangers of nihilism, the sense that life is inherently meaningless. But he also saw it as an opportunity, a starting point for the creation of new values. In today's world, where cynicism and disillusionment are common, Nietzsche's idea of overcoming nihilism is crucial. Rather than despairing in the face of uncertainty, Nietzsche invites us to live dangerously, to see life as a canvas upon which we can paint new values and forge new paths. This means taking responsibility for our future, engaging in meaningful action, and continuously striving to improve ourselves and our world. Applying Nietzsche's ideas today means rejecting complacency and actively participating in the creation of our lives and society. It's about daring to dream, challenging the status quo, and ultimately shaping a future that aligns with our deepest convictions and values. Friedrich Nietzsche remains one of the most provocative and complex thinkers in the history of philosophy. His ideas, often controversial and always challenging, continue to stir debate and inspire thought across generations. Why do Nietzsche's ideas endure? Perhaps it's because he didn't just tell us what to think. He taught us how to think. He encouraged us to confront our own beliefs, to question the morality we inherit, and to forge a path that is uniquely our own. Nietzsche's philosophy resonates in a world that often feels chaotic and uncertain. It offers no easy answers, but rather a call to embrace life in all its complexity, to live with courage, and to find meaning through our own choices and actions. In the end, Nietzsche's work is a testament to the power of ideas, to challenge, to disrupt, and ultimately to transform. His philosophy endures because it speaks to the timeless human quest for purpose, meaning, and a life well lived.